If the freedom movement is the only thing standing in front of us in New York City,
foreign or domestic, who do you serve? You serve the state. You serve the New World Order.
episode 20 with my brother Scott. And we also have Crystal today. Crystal's in the building. Scott, Crystal, welcome to the Mighty Force podcast today.
Hello.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, Scott. I'm going to take this one because, Scott, you have been such a mentor to all of us. And honestly, you know, we said it all the time, an unsung hero, whether you're going to take that title or not, but you are an unsung hero because you do so much for everyone, to give us education, to provide us with, you know, every step that we need. So we thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. I am humbled and honored. It's my pleasure.
My brother. So we bring you on, Scott. We're going to get right to it. America is worried about the future of this nation. There's a lot of people that are just waiting for November to come, whether they want to vote in RFK, vote in Trump. And there's a small group called the York de Jure who is telling people that there's 364 days in a year and voting's only 2 to 4 years that you can vote. There's more you can do, and that the rights and the power is with the people. What does that mean, Scott? Like, what other power do we have besides a vote?
I wish we did have the power to vote and that it counted. So you said several things there, so I'm going to try and take them probably out of order, but in importance to me. First 3 words in the Constitution: we the people. This is a republic. In a republic, all the power remains with the people, not the people that are our servants, supposedly acting as our government. Our government is a corporation. So I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to put a disclaimer in here, and that is, do not believe one word I say. Look it up, learn it for yourself. I will try to give you several places to find the information, but not everything that I know. That's impossible. Just impossible. But I will do my best to do that. But don't believe one word I say. Look it up, find it, and know it. And then there'll be no question in your mind that this guy is legitimate or not. So I will do my best to give you where to find the information that I'm giving you. So with that, I'll continue on with the democracy is nothing more than mob rule. 50.000000001% ruling 49.999999999%.
100%.
So we don't have a democracy. We have a republic. And since the government, as we think of it, our servants, have no power over us, because all political power relies with us, not them. So we just have to remember that and put them back in their box, which is what the Constitution does. Article 1, Section 8, all of it describes what they're supposed to be doing for us, period. So they just have to figure out that they've been lied to their entire lives. And that was the hardest thing for me, was trying to wrap my head around everything that I thought I knew was not correct. And it took me years to understand that. About 2.5 years of going down rabbit holes and fighting and arguments and but I figured it out and figured that finally comprehended that I'm the power. All of us are the power.
100%.
Not over each other, but we are the power as a group and a collective or singly against the government. There's lots of cases out there that will tell you that the government cannot even interact with us. We are private men and women. There's lots of cases. Go look. They're not hard to find. Or you can just read Civil Rules of Procedure 17. You only got to read the title to understand that.
So obviously, right? We hear, we read in the Declaration of Independence, our God-given rights. We see that this is a republic, and we hear these things, but we are behaving like a democracy. Where in this timeline of America did our country turn into this democracy?
Well, for my studying, and I'm not sure that I'm going to be 100% correct here, but I believe it happened when the Act of 1871 was passed, which, by the way, Congress committed treason by doing that because they took away our de jure government and put in a de facto government, corporate government, corporation, dead entity. So when they did that, they took and just destroyed everything that our founding fathers had set up. Some people will say, well, the founding fathers only set it up just for them. No, they didn't. That's baloney. That's absolute baloney. Plus, we're living today. They're not. We have the power, period. We just have to stand up and realize we got to stop fighting over the silly stuff that our government and our local officials keep us fighting over.
I mean, that's by design. You know what I mean? Like, they purposely don't teach us these things. I mean, I am a teacher, and I've never once learned government this way and that we have the power. In school, we never even went over. We were never told to memorize the Bill of Rights. I mean, now I'm asking my students, even though I teach math, I'm like, what are the Bill of Rights?
It's crazy, Scott. I was just on a podcast with my friends, they're former cops, and they admitted, they said, listen, we weren't even taught the Constitution. We don't, he goes, they did law for 18 years. And so you see them hiding it. So I think what Chris was saying is correct. It's like by design that they keep it from not only the American people, but law enforcement and probably politicians too. I mean, politicians keep calling it a democracy. I mean, it may not be sinister. It might just be that they just
it is sinister. It is protect our democracy. Yes, absolute sinister.
So if we stop and think about a statement you just made, which I agree with 100%. What?
Right.
You took an oath, right? You took an oath. What's your most sacred thing you can do?
Put your name on.
If your man or woman isn't worth their word, what are they worth? Not very much. So when you take an oath to a document or two, depends what you're swearing into, and you don't follow it, or even worst of all, you don't know it, you didn't read it before you raised your right hand, put your hand on the good book, and said, I do this and this and this and this and this.
Wow.
Hello. I mean, I'm sorry.
No, look how you framed that, man. Oof, you don't even know what you're taking an oath to. An oath's a big deal, right? Like you don't even know what you're taking an oath to. It's almost like a procedure.
And they don't even, like when I asked them, did you take an oath to the Constitution? Oh yeah, I took an oath. Do you know what it says? Well, no. What? And that's cops. Okay, those are cops. I have a lot of friends that are cops. They have no freaking clue. And I can say people can say, well, they just didn't know. Well, you know what? It's their flipping responsibility to know what they took an oath to. Period. No excuses. Anybody that says, "Oh, I don't know what it says," that's an excuse, and a very poor one. Very poor, especially if you've been there 18, 20 years. Really? You never read the Constitution? I don't know. It's sad.
Yeah, man. So you were touching on 1871 and the corporation being created, but can we just dial back slightly to the 14th Amendment after the Civil War? Is it true that the 14th Amendment converted our God-given rights to government privileges? Is there any truth to those rumors?
I've got a question for you. And I want you to answer it as honestly as you possibly can, both of you.
Oh,
Will
man.
do. There we go.
Grabbing
Right.
my Constitution.
Very important question, very pertinent. I want you to answer it as quickly as you can and as honestly as you can. It's a yes or no question, so it's cake. Did you either one of you take an oath to the Constitution of the United States?
No.
No.
So what's the 14th Amendment got to do with you?
Powerful.
Seriously, did you give up all your rights for privileges under the Constitution of the United States to be a servant to the men and women of the United States of America? No. So that 14th Amendment doesn't even talk to you at all. None of it talks to you. It tells them what they can and can't do and what they're supposed to do and what they're not. They don't really go into the negatives. So if it's not in there, they can't do it, period. Read the Federalist Papers and then read the Anti-Federalist Papers, and you will probably fall asleep and be bored, but you'll have more knowledge.
It's funny you say that because I actually did read some of it and I love it. I think the arguments that happened in the 13 years before, I know, it specifically wanting states' rights and not wanting the Constitution, the Anti-Federalists, really interesting stuff, man, and how they had to come to an agreement. And the militias and why they made state militias and stuff. It's really interesting stuff, and it's really sad that we don't learn about our history because it's actually pretty interesting, at least in my opinion.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely been mind-blowing when you grow up and honestly, you're thinking, oh, the Constitution gives us rights, right? You're literally taught, oh, the Constitution is how we have our rights. And then when you start to get educated, you're like, oh no, this is not for me. This is not for me. This has no jurisdiction of my life as a woman in on the land here. Like there's none of that applies to me. And that it's the government's limitation and that it outlines their job description.
I actually hear Jeannie right now saying no piece of paper gives you your rights. I hear her right now in my head.
Well, she's also a mentor.
Yep. And God bless Jeannie.
Amen.
She's done the work. She's read the stuff, and she can articulate it very well. No doubt.
100%.
All right, so now if the 14th Amendment, so now, all right, then we still have another hurdle to get over because we still have law enforcement, military believing that they can enforce these things on the people. And this is kind of the hurdle that we have as free men and women on the land we call America, right? So this is, I guess, the nuts and bolts of the picture.
Yes, and that's the problem is the enforcement. The politicians are directing our supposed policy enforcers to do stuff to the men and women. So they're really, truly, well, they're both guilty of a crime, trespass on men and women. And by directing what they call enforcement on us, their enforcement, if you read city charters, county charters, and that their enforcement, they have no authority over men and women. They have authority over persons and very small places, usually places that are owned by the county or town. So that's their own, that's it. That's their jurisdiction. Their jurisdiction is not on the open road. It's just not. State troopers, boy, there's a real pile of manure. They started out as the security force for the governor. And they just expanded and expanded and expanded their powers. But they're the state of New York. And if you read the definition of the state of New York, and I'm not going to be able to tell you where to find it. It's in several different places, so I apologize. It's going to be in VAT 2101 N, I think. But it's nothing more than exists on paper, and Puerto Rico and territories of the United States. It's not inside the borders, the fictitious borders of New York. That's not the state. The state only exists on paper because they're a corporation. So, and they admit it. You just have a hard time finding it. I found it in two places. One place I found. Somebody else found another place, but it took me over a year to find it. So it's not
Gotcha.
easy.
Did you have something? You seem like you have something.
So now, I mean, this is kind of one of the things that we wanted to talk about with you, because you guys inspired all of us and to get active and to now get educated. How do we bridge the gap for the normal person that's watching this, the normal man or woman watching this, to take that step from hearing all of this? And it may sound overwhelming and it may sound like a lot to take in, to hear that everything that we taught has been wrong. But how do we encourage that regular man or woman who's on the other side of the screen to get educated? What steps can we encourage them to take?
Well, the first step is to read our founding documents and to understand them. When you read them, at least for me, they were very intimidating to me. It was like, phew, what does it say? And then I found out, well, it's in fourth grade English. I'm like, uh-oh.
I must be a third grader. I must be a third grader.
Uh-oh. Are you smarter than a fourth grader? Maybe not.
Got me there.
So I had to go back and I had to learn, some, unfortunately, a little bit about language, but that's just me. It doesn't mean everybody else will. But once I learned that it's actually simple language, I stopped taking all the intimidation of reading the document away from me mentally, and there made it so much easier to understand it, because it is simple. It really is. I know it sounds like, oh my gosh, it's so much. It's not really. It's so simple. And you'll study along, and it'll be like, man, I'm learning. This is incredible. And then all of a sudden I go, boom, oh my gosh, I understand it. I know my power now, right? You've been through it. I'm sure.
Yeah. That's why you see her shaking her head.
It, right?
It just starts making sense, like a mosaic coming together.
Exactly. And then it's like, then everything else is so easy to understand and comprehend. But it's definitely work. Like I said, I went down so many rabbit holes that were the wrong rabbit holes. I had to experience. I have a habit throughout my entire life of learning things the hard way. And that's okay. Those are the lessons you don't forget. So, it's like I said, it spent about 2.5 years before I realized where the right path to go down was. And that's why I do what I do, so I can help other people save 2.5 years of their life. That's basically what it is for me. So it's not as hard as it thinks, but start with your founding documents. I think I started that with teaching right off the bat. If you know what those founding documents are, you'll understand the power that the people have. Read the Declaration of Independence with a little bit different lens, and that is that it's ordained and established by we the people, which means it's law. L-A-W, law.
Right.
So as you said earlier, something about laws, but they're not laws. right? The legislature cannot write laws for us. They can write rules, regulations, ordinances, statutes, codes. Why don't they just say in the books, law? Why did it say statute? And then they say codes, CFR or USC and CFR. See, that's the common sense that we overlook. Now, that fact I just brought forward took me about 3.5 years to figure out. Are you kidding me?
Wow.
You know, because you just don't comprehend what's right in front of your eyes sometimes. But they're not laws. Otherwise, they'd say laws.
I mean, in that case, they're kind of counting on our ignorance. You know what I mean? They're counting on us not knowing these
Yeah.
things. And you know what I mean? Like,
That's the whole game. That's the whole shtick. Let's not teach them their rights and let's keep them ignorant, and they won't question the system. They'll just go along with it.
Do you think that's warranted? Did we not prove them correct? I'm guilty. Okay, listen,
right?
I'm not throwing stones at a glass house here. I was guilty. I get it. And then when you're not guilty anymore, they want to make war with you, which is bringing dishonor to my house. That's what they want to do, because I just want them to leave me alone. Just leave me alone. Let me exist, do what I do, and leave me alone. But they can't do that because they want to keep their thumb on, their boot on your neck, so to speak.
Yep.
So let's all right. So now let's say they got their Constitution. They started reading it, try to understand it. The Declaration of Independence. For those watching, the Declaration of Independence, guys, once you totally, well, at least understand it somewhat, that mosaic starts to come together. It's so powerful. The words, you'll hear the words differently the more you read it. That's at least what happened with me. And then you start to realize that the people have the power. They get the power. Okay, I'm all powered up like He-Man. What's their next step, Scott? What are they doing locally? When we say get involved locally,
they need to get there. Obviously, you want to get together with like minds, like is actually happening in lots of counties throughout this country, finally, which is a great thing. So the states are coming together through the counties.
Yep.
Or vice versa. Depends how your state was formed or whatever. But and then we got to learn how to hold these people, these servants, to servant status, so to speak, because that's what they are. They're servants to us. They're not officials. They're not official anything. They're servants. They're our servants. They're hired by us. That makes them our servants. We pay them. I mean, that's debatable, but as far as the pay goes, but I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be set up. It's not, but whatever. We'll have to get away with that. But that's what we need to do. Learn how to hold them accountable. Learn what the law is. Learn what your power is through holding your court on your four corners of a piece of paper, and tell these people, hey, you made a contract. I know that contract, and that's your oath of office. You promised to do this, and this. Now, I'm going to sign the other part of this contract and make it a full contract with 2 signatures. Well, okay, that's 1 3/4. Sorry, this is 2 signatures. But so, and you make it a contract. Now you can hold them together, hold them accountable for their misgivings, misdoings, because right now, contract law is the most powerful law there is on this planet. Period. End of story. Contract law. Nobody's got a contract with you. Nada. Nothing. Not unilateral contract. I don't want to hear that. That's just an assumption and presumption. 2 signature contract. So do that. Then, right now, as far as getting sheriffs, be nice to get the sheriffs back into Constitution. Compliance. They are elected by the people. They should be. Now, the deputies are a different story. You all need to look into your county's charter a little differently. Or I'm sorry, each county has to be looked at differently. What I suggest everybody do is take and look at the collective bargaining agreement, who it's with, and who did it for the deputy sheriffs, not the sheriff, but the deputy sheriff. I think you're going to find that he's working for that all of them are working for the DA and not the sheriff, which
Right.
puts them under a different jurisdiction. Now, I'm not saying everyone,
Right.
saying look into it and find out what it is in your county.
Like, so New York County, for instance, the sheriffs in New York County are it's very similar. They're appointed. They're not voted in by the people.
So yes, you're talking about the sheriffs. I'm talking about the deputies.
Okay.
So almost every county, but in New York City, they're elected.
They're elected, right?
Sheriff are elected, but the deputies aren't elected.
They work under the sheriffs, though, right?
And it depends. You got to go
So that's
look.
what he's saying. Look for the collective bargaining, because
Gotcha.
if we do that homework, we'll see that they work for the DA
Possibly.
in many cases.
Wow.
In many cases, yes. Yep. So
look at this, bro. They teared this whole republic apart, man, from every level. They did a good job, man.
They did, and they had lots of time because it's so easy just to get along, to be, it's crazy.
Bread and circus, yeah, bread and circus, man. Same thing as Rome. Same thing. Entertainers.
We didn't do our due diligence. I'm guilty. Okay, I'm guilty. I didn't know that I had due diligence that needed to be done. Now I know.
I mean, it's almost like the rose-colored glasses you can't take off. Like, once we got active with the de jure and we're like, okay, there is remedy. We can step into our power. We can hold our elected officials accountable. And I talk to anybody about that. They're like, how do you do that? How's that possible? Like, you're not a lawyer. And you're like, exactly. That's why I'm able to do that. That's why we can do it.
Yeah, there's a lot of specifically in the local freedom movement. I want to see you guys get something done, and then I'll get involved. But until then, this is just pieces of paper that we were even labeled paper terrorists, which I thought was actually pretty cool.
Well,
paper terrorists.
It's impossible to be labeled a paper terrorist because the way we do things is we do not trespass. We do not try to take them over.
Right.
We're not taking them over. We are not anti-government. We want you to do what you promised you would do, people. Period. They're the ones that promised it. We didn't. They did. Just follow your promise. I think that's a pretty reasonable ask.
Yeah.
And when you don't, we'll be there to hold you accountable.
Checks and balances. Yeah.
Well, do you think that they're not going to hold you accountable?
Right.
To their standards, which is below standards, but it's crazy.
Yeah, I get summonses and bills all the time. I don't know about you guys, but I get them all the time. They hold me accountable all the time.
They try to.
If I go 5 miles over the speed limit out here, I get held accountable. So.
Well, that's its own thing. That's another episode.
Yeah,
that's another episode.
We ain't gonna get
that's way down the road.
Yeah.
Because if we went through there, if we went down that road, they'd be like, okay, already over my head.
Yeah, and right now it's just we're just in a good. I feel like, Crystal and I have been in this movement for about 4 years now, and there's many different people doing many different things, wearing many different hats. And I realize that the more and more hopeless they get with a political savior, the more we're ripe for this conversation. Yes. And we're in a good place right now. I mean, we're getting close to an election. So it's, obviously everybody's just waiting for November. But we're literally crawling to November. And I try to tell specifically people that like to self-proclaim patriots, is it really patriotic? If you feel your country is in turmoil, is it patriotic to just wait for November for one man to fix your country, especially if you feel treason is happening?
Look at his face.
And I feel this is the real remedy to that. If you feel you are a patriot, wouldn't this be the course of action?
Oh, to wait to vote?
No. To holding your public servants accountable.
To the
yeah, in my opinion, absolutely. voting. I'm going to ask you another. Well, I already know the answer. So I asked you the question about the Constitution and taking an oath to it. You both said no.
Correct.
So by today's standards, by doing that, you're joining the corporation. That's what you're doing. You're joining a corporation. Every state servant, every county servant, every town servant, every city servant, they're joining a corporation. They are part of the corporation. That's the parent corporation is called United States, or United States Inc., or there's several of them. But we'll just go with United States to make it simple. But so since you didn't take an oath, you are not part of that corporation. So you're voting for what? So I'll phrase it another way.
Interesting.
McDonald's. Did you vote the CFO of McDonald's in? How
No,
about the CEO?
no.
No. Well, then what are you doing voting for the United States CEO?
Oh man, that's not going to go over well with them RFK Trump supporters.
Well, I'm sorry, but it's the truth, and the Act of 1871 proves it. Okay, that's end of story. You can't argue this point all you want. I'm not. I won't even entertain an argument or a discussion about it. Go read the bloody document, and it'll tell you.
What is that called again?
The Act of 1871.
So in a republic, they're still voting in a republic, though, right?
Correct. Electors, not voting.
So the yeah, you know what? Because I just read it. So in a republic, there are electors that elect the public servants.
Yep. Not voters.
Is there a president? Is there a president of the republic?
Yes.
There is a president of the republic. Okay.
If it's de jure, yes. No corporation.
Gotcha.
De jure. Yeah.
And this was the agreement that the anti-federalists and the federalists came with to keep the states' rights, and there would be a president, but there would be the states would continue to have their rights.
Well, correct. Until 1871, you're right on the right. To the best of our ability, to the paperwork that we have available to us. That's very well stated. Is it 100% true? Man, I didn't live back then, so I'm not sure. But
yeah,
I always look at things a little from the corner of my eye a little bit, and try to find stuff that is different or goes against the grain of what others have said or found, just to make sure that what they did find is as correct as we can know. That's all.
Did you have something before I asked?
I mean, I just wanted to tie in, like, everyone gets so ramped up for voting, right? It's my civic duty. We should go vote. That's what people who are for voting get so energized by having that power to vote. Every vote counts. Okay, so if you would just really take that energy and put it into something that actually can like make change, do you know how much we would have a de jure government? We would have a government by the people, because we're all taking that action. But it's not so glamorous to put the work in and understand the foundational documents and to understand how this process works, because it requires work.
Right.
That's been the hurdle, Scott. People don't want to work. And you know what? They rather for the next 2 years complain online about either liberals or Republicans than actually do this. And the worst part is it's so satisfying when you do learn it, because now you feel like you are part of the country, and the patriotism in that is so beautiful. You feel like you're playing a role.
You can't go back.
Yeah.
You literally can't go back. Like, there's no way after learning what we've learned, can I just be like, I'm going to step away now. I'm going to just walk away. I can't, like, excuse me. We have too much at stake here. We need to be like, getting as many people on board. And that's why people like you were so important, because you got all of us on board, you know?
Yeah.
I suggest, or may I suggest, that if you're doing this for glamour or glory, you don't belong here.
Amen.
Yup.
Amen.
And that's why I stayed behind the scenes for so long, because I didn't want the focus to be on me. I wanted the focus to be on the education, the learning, the comprehending what is true and how much power each of us have. And I didn't want to be out there, acting like I have all the power, because I don't have all the power. And you said something earlier where you said we're still learning. 4 years later, we're still learning. Listen, I'm 6 years into this, and I learned about 6 new things today. Seriously. So, as the truth of what is true comes out, we're learning, that stuff. I mean, last couple of days, some of the stuff I've been listening to, I'm like, how could I not have known it? Because
Right.
I'll bring this knowledge forward much later, but it's so common sense that it's so simple that, oh my God, am I that like
Right in front of us.
spaced
Yeah.
out? I'm like, holy crap, this makes complete sense. And I never even thought of it. So, but I'll you remind me, I'll probably bring it forward as soon as I'm done learning it. I don't want to bring something forward that I haven't. Well, if you followed the rabbit hole I placed in education the other day,
What, that video, that 3-hour video?
if you followed that rabbit hole,
Right. Yeah.
we're going.
Oh man.
Will do. We were a couple minutes in, and we're going to keep going.
I got hours in.
I can't wait. I can't wait. So all right. So all right. So now the people, they get the education, they learn. They're going to hold them accountable. You said hold them on the court is on four corners of paper. What exactly does that mean? The people at the de Jure have been speaking about this administrative process. What is this process? This administrative process to hold your elected officials accountable?
This is what they actually truly mean by due process of law. Due process of law. And some people may have a hard time believing this, but it literally comes out of the good book. And that would be Matthew 18, 15 through 20. That's the process. That's the process we use to hold them accountable. And what most people don't understand is when you wind up in court, they either come and arrest you or they send you a summons to go to court. You were supposed to already go through the administrative process to go to court. They skipped that whole process. So they have not afforded you the due process of law, which, by the way, they're supposed to give you is the true, due process of law. So they skip right over it, but you just hire a lawyer and get represented and become a ward of the court because you are unable to handle your own affairs. So now you're a ward of the court. Oh, isn't that just lovely? So, by those four corners of the paper, you're holding your court. And we'll as we go on and educate more, we'll talk about that more. But that's that's where all due process of law is supposed to start. Is basically man to man, or woman to man, or woman to woman, or man to woman, one-on-one, privately notice, say, hey, man, you trespass on my rights by this. Right? That's where you start. You let them know. Maybe they didn't know. Maybe they are politicians that don't know what the Constitution said. So we're going to be nice, and then we'll give them another notice, and we'll handle them with grace. So we'll give them a grace period. We'll have clean hands, so they've been noticed twice. They've got lots of time to do what they know they should be doing. When you get a notice in the mail, right, for your electric, they call it a bill. That's a notice. That is a notice. And then they'll send you another one if you don't pay it, right? And then they'll send you another one, third one. They'll say, hey, dude, we're going to shut you off. We're throwing a switch. You're done. So let's use that. Why can't they use it on us? Why can't we use it on them?
Absolutely.
And that's called the administrative process?
Yeah.
That's called the administrative process. So we see people doing this across the country, and it's really beautiful. There's that lady Mickey Kane. I apologize if I'm saying her name wrong. We will definitely put it in the video. In Arizona, I have a friend in New Hampshire who is part of a group that is giving direction to legislation, and there's a legislator named Leah Cushman who is getting direction from the people of New Hampshire. She's currently fighting with the bar. There's bar lawyers that are kicking back to her because she's trying to work in a lawful capacity and they're working in a legal capacity. So I thought that was pretty interesting. If you like to see the next hurdle that could be happening, right?
Right.
Georgia, I'm hearing Georgia counties, Georgia assemblies are getting active. I keep hearing about Michigan. So we're starting to see the country through the counties, like you said, rise, and it's giving hope that that we can restore this republic, like the de Jure trying in New York, Florida. No, please do add because I don't know. Please,
Florida, Texas, Alaska. What did you say? Alaska?
I was asking. Yeah, you said it.
Yeah, Alaska. North Dakota. I think North Dakota. There's a couple more too. So yeah, they're coming. People are, they're learning. We're starting from ground zero. We really are. We're just starting from nothing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the bar.
Oh,
I got some homework for you.
No, please do, man. Let's go. I like to learn. Let's go.
So, what year was the bar thrown out of the colonies, and why?
Oh man, write it down.
What year
was the bar?
I'm not telling you.
No, please don't. We're gonna answer it.
Homework.
We're gonna look it up.
Maybe I'm full of malarkey, and they were never kicked out.
I mean, I'm assuming that's right. What you just said, it was a trick question.
I don't know. Was it a trick question?
I don't know. I'm trying to Google while he's writing at the same time.
Cheater.
You didn't say when I had to do the homework.
That's correct. That's all right. Google all the way.
Okay, what do you got?
What
Let's
year?
do it live. We're gonna do it live.
That's all right. My editing game's crazy. What year was the bar kicked out?
She makes me look like Michael Jackson.
She ain't gonna be able to do that with me.
No, you look great. You look great. Oh wait, I think it's coming up as it's not coming up as bar. It's coming up like a drinking bar.
We gotta put the dot.
Got it.
British Accredit Registry.
Or attorneys. Try attorneys.
So what year were the attorneys kicked out? Bar attorneys kicked out?
Of the colonies.
I don't know. I feel like I'm not doing the right search.
So that means we got to do homework, see?
1750?
1750?
No. Oh man, he's not gonna tell us. We got to do homework. All right, we're gonna edit that all out. We're gonna do the homework, and then
But we're gonna keep the question in because I want the audience to look stuff up too.
It's not easy to find.
All right, good. That's good.
All right, good. So now we're gonna look it up. edit back in here.
Okay.
So
Well, Scott, this is why, like I tell you, I really do appreciate that you always tell us books to get and stuff like that, because everything so far that you've any rabbit hole you put me down has been fruitful. So we do appreciate it. We do have, we're gonna have a hurdle with the people that are watching this that are saying it doesn't matter if we believe we're free men or not, if the authorities, if the foot, if our military, if our law enforcement's going along with it, we're kind of captured. But then we see this optimism, right? That these counties are kicking in, and we're going to see a duality in the country if we're not seeing it already in some states where you see this corporation and this republic. There's a sheriff by the name of Joshua James. Are you familiar with Joshua James in Texas?
I've heard of him. I don't know of him.
All right, so we talk a little bit online, and he just took an oath to the Republic of Texas, and the counties are formed, and so we're seeing this maturity of this republic happening. It's so excited, but every state's kind of on their own. That's how this kind of works. So,
but that's how we want it to work, right?
Here's the kicker, right? We're all in New York, so we have different hurdles than, let's say, other states.
True.
So, we're not looking for no state to save us, but at the same time, we got to put the work in. And, the UN's here. I don't know how that weighs in. Does the UN have any effect on our state specifically?
Well, New York City is the capital of the planet.
Right.
They think. But I also think that the UN possibly has very little to no power any longer.
I really hope that. I heard that too. Yeah, I heard that too. I
don't know that for a fact.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not even researching it because I really don't care. They think that power that they think they have, right? In my opinion, is illegitimate, not legal, not even lawful, period. And I don't care about legal. I don't live in the legal realm. I live in the lawful realm. So that's my thought process on that as far as that goes.
Got you. Scott, can we have a little fun before we let you go? Can we have a little fun real quick?
The whole thing wasn't fun. What was it? Torture?
I was having fun.
I was saying, can we go have some fun? We're seeing these people that are getting pulled out of their cars for not having a license or having a license plate on their cars. As free men and women, and I love watching it. I like watching the back and forth and people knowing their rights and stuff. What's your take on all that? Obviously, the whole oxymoron of sovereign citizen. Everybody gets labeled that when we speak this kind of jargon. What's your take on all that? Are you driving around without a license plate?
Don't answer that question. Don't answer that question.
I said we had some fun. We had some fun or what?
What are you wired?
Fed? Mighty Fed Young?
Yeah.
What's your take on all that, Scott, honestly? License plates and IDs and that type of stuff.
Well, what I suggest you do is your homework on the statutes and codes. What do the statutes and codes say? What does the Supreme Court say? What do they say? What have they already ruled? How many cases would you like? Hang on.
Let's go.
Ooh,
Yes.
Let's go.
Hang on.
Told you we're gonna have fun.
Because that's always the question, right? Whenever you talk about common law, whenever you talk about, this type of stuff, and then you get into the licenses and
I was told it on our podcast.
But you can't not have a social security card. You can't not have a birth certificate. So that's always the response. And again, this is totally like we're joking. We're gonna have a fun, last few minutes here. And this is totally something we need to delve into on another video. But
birth certificate especially. Yeah. And I've been on the birth certificate since day one.
Yeah.
Well, I found out lots more.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Part 2's coming up, guys.
So Berber versus Connolly.
Barber.
Barber, like cut your hair.
113 US 27, 31. Yik Yo versus Hopkins. There should be no arbitrary deprivation of life or liberty or arbitrary spoliation of property, meaning police power, due process. So, another one, interesting one is Bud versus People of State of New York. 143 U.S. 517, 1892. Another case I can't remember. We just were talking about it the other day.
Is that the one where they can't grant your rights? Because is that the Butchers Union versus Crescent? No, not that
one. That is one case about your rights. Exactly what it states, I can't remember. Oh my gosh, I've almost finished reading the whole case and I can't think of the name of it. Lord,
that's a lot of information, bro. It's a lot. It's a lot.
What did he say, Justice Bandis? Let's see if I can find something real quick on the.
So, guys, while he's doing that, guys, what these cases are showing is that we're just ignorant, that we don't know our God-given rights, and that these things can be, I'm assuming that he's referencing these, can be won lawfully, guys. And this is the importance of learning the law, because what seems crazy, and you watch YouTube and see people getting pulled out of their windows and stuff, there's actually case law that shows and sets precedent.
Yeah, there's lots of it. I mean, you just look under automobile. What they've done is taken your automobile and turned it into a motor vehicle. That's what they did. As soon as you register it. Now, if you go into Blacks and you go read what registration means, it means to give up ownership.
Wow. So Black Laws Dictionary, guys, he's talking about Black Laws Dictionary.
What? Or go into the statutes and codes in your state and look up registration. Means to give up ownership.
Wow.
They won't even let you off the dealership unless you have registration for your car.
I mean, is that true though? We've just been following orders.
I mean, right.
That's correct. Well, your dealership is a impound yard for imports. That's what a dealer is. It's an impound yard for imports. They're being imported into the United States.
Wow, we have so much. These things are just so involved and are so important for all of us to know what these words mean. I mean, we could go, and I know we're not going to do it this episode, so sorry for that, guys. But we could go a whole episode on citizen and person, and those words are always used in these policies, and that goes to why they don't have jurisdiction over men and women.
And if you want a quick, easy understanding, you'll probably have to read it 10 times. I probably read it 20. 1 United States Code, USC 1. Go read that. That's the very first statute in all the United States codes that they wrote just for us in 1947. Thank you very much, people. Yeah. So go read that, and you'll get a better understanding of how they look at us, what they think of us. I didn't write that stuff. They did. So that'll give you some kind of hint. And then for me, when I read that and fully comprehended it, man, that just set me off to the computer, learning everything I could learn.
Look it up.
So so where I'm at with the studying, Scott, and please correct me if I'm wrong in any way, or from your studies, that basically to get us into their jurisdiction, they basically tagged us, and we're willing participants of this tagging of this corporate self, and that brings us into their maritime law, which they call USC. Under this USC law, how are they converting the living soul into this jurisdiction? How are they doing this? And we're all kind of playing along in their charade. I probably pissed you off 3 times there, but
No, not at all.
I
I am not going to be able to explain this to you in the next hour.
Yes,
Copy.
it's
Okay.
its own
I'm
episode.
just going to tell you where it starts is the birth certificate and your birth day. Now, most people get Social Security number, especially now, right at birth. That's what I'm hearing. Myself, I didn't. When I registered for the draft, I had to get a Social Security number. I couldn't register for the draft. And you did all that at the post office at that time. Of course, I was out in the country, so I'm not in the city, but at that time, that's what it was all done through the post office. So all the military is done through the post office. So all these guys that have their, their DD-14, I think gets them out of the service, which, by the way, I was never in the service. I just had to register for the draft, which was canceled like right away. So, but they didn't go, they went through the post office to register all this stuff, but they never left the military, from what I'm understanding, via the post office. So there's a form, and I don't know what it is, with the Postal Service that if you want to get all the way out, that's what you need to do. And I don't know about that because I'm not military. So I've just been told.
Gotcha. Scott, we won't hold you any longer. I just want to say thank you so much for everything you've done for this movement, all the time and effort and the work for not only myself, but my wife.
All the patience you have, because we always have so many questions. We're always we got to ask Scott this. We got to ask Scott, you know?
And you've always welcomed me to call you. I know sometimes I'll impulsively call you with some outlandish thing and you'll answer me, and I appreciate that.
Not once yet have you asked me one outlandish thing. You just asked me questions for inquiring minds that want to know. That's not outlandish questions.
We appreciate you, Scott, so much. We really thank you for taking the time out. And I mean, you take the time out, not just, I mean, for this, but every night for hours. And you put a lot of work in. And I want to just say this to the people of New York City. You don't live in New York City. You live in New York State, but you don't live, you know, and you put so much of your personal time and effort in for documents that are pertaining to the city. And I personally, and Greg as well, we want to thank you for that.
Yeah. Big time, bro.
Well, you're very, very welcome. It's like I said before, it's my pleasure. If I cannot help other people with my knowledge, what is the sense in getting the knowledge? That's what I look. That's the way I look at it. I don't care what anybody else thinks. That's the way I'm going to always think about it. That this knowledge is useless if I cannot spread it around. So that's it. I only do it for everybody here. I don't do it for me. I'm
right. Selfless. Yeah. Scott, is there any last words, any words of encouragement to the people that are concerned of the nation, concerned that there's no hope, they're all doomed out, that this country's going to fall and everything's going to fall apart? Is there any words of encouragement you can give the listeners listening to this podcast today?
Don't give up. Are you kidding me? You can't give up. Are you kidding? There's no way. I'm certainly not going to give up. And my thought that I started out with many years ago was I wanted to be the change I wanted to see. So I started with changing me first, because I didn't think that I could help anybody else if I didn't change me. So I had to change me first. And once I changed me first, then the rest just came kind of naturally. So that's what I started with. And then I just sat down and started reading and reading. And I even to this day, I read and read and read and listen, spend several hours still, even this day, because I just don't know it all. I hope I never do know it all, to be honest with you. Otherwise, I think I would die of boredom, right? So,
Yeah.
so
Well,
thank
Scott,
you guys for doing what you do by getting this out to all, all the people, that hopefully it will spark something, somebody somewhere. If we have one person that steps forward from this, in my opinion, that's a win. It's worth every
us too.
minute of our time, in my opinion. So I just hope that it lights a fire under somebody to go learn who they truly are.
Thank you, Scott.
Scott, thank you so much, man. Thanks for coming on episode 20 with the Mighty Force podcast featuring Scott, and we're out.